Hi everybody, my name is David and I am your host here on the Cartoon Fortress YouTube channel, and I am so fortunate to be here with my special guest star. Guest star, what is your name?
Brennan.
This is my son Brennan, and I am so excited to have him on this video with me today. This is a very special video. This is the 1K subscriber Q&A, and the questions that we're going to be featuring today come to us from the 1K subscriber thank you video that I posted a week or two ago, and I just want to say thank you so much for posting your questions on there. And now a note about our wardrobe. This was not intended. We have kind of this inverted black and orange thing going on. I have a new Halloween shirt here that I got from Terror Threads that I wanted to show off in this video. Terror Threads is in no way sponsoring this video, but I'm just a big fan of what they're doing, and being a big fan of horror movies, I am really into their products. This is actually my first shirt from them, and I think I'm going to be buying more in the future. Brennan, what about your shirt? What's your shirt from? So this is actually from a family event that we went to. But what does the shirt represent?
The book series Percy Jackson.
Percy Jackson, which is one of your favorite book series.
It is my favorite.
It is your favorite. Okay, awesome. So Brennan's featuring Percy Jackson. I'm featuring John Carpenter's Halloween. And yes, just kind of a happy accident that we have inverted black and orange going on here. And one other note just before we start, we had a bit of a mic malfunction before we started filming. And so I'm mic'd up, and unfortunately the other lav mic that we had Brennan hooked up with decided to stop working. So we're going to go with one mic and hope Brennan uses his strong young voice to power us through this through this video. So Brennan's going to be asking the questions, and of course I will be answering. And what do you say we get started?
Okay. Cinemadev Media asks, what is your favorite label and why?
Awesome. And Cinemadev Media is a friend of this channel. Thank you so much for the question, Dave. And to answer that, that's a tough question, because I definitely I collect a lot of labels. I've been collecting for a lot of years. There's some labels that I've collected and then stopped collecting because I didn't feel like they were worth pursuing anymore. But amongst my favorites, I have probably 5 to 7 labels or so that I collect from on a very regular basis. But for me, at least where I sit right now, my favorite is Indicator out of the UK. Now that might be a little bit of a controversial answer. I don't know. I know in our community that Criterion kind of reigns supreme, and I love Criterion. This is not to say that Indicator is head and shoulders above the rest of the labels that I collect. But Indicator has really proven to be just amazing quality. I love the overall package that I get on purchases from them, especially when you're talking in terms of the box set releases. The films, the supplements, which are always engaging, and then the books, which are also really informative, lots of great essays and photos. And then on the supplements, on the discs, the extra features, we get people like Jonathan Rigby, who's one of my favorite kind of film criticism commentators. But just overall, a wonderful package. And I've been introduced to some really great films through Indicator. Right now, I am on my journey through the Hammer box sets, and fairly recently, kind of nearing the end of 2020, I finished out the William Castle box set sets, which I highly recommend. I know at least one or because there's only 2 sets of those total. I think one of the 2 is sold out, and that's kind of an issue that we have as collectors, obviously, is things going out of print. But if you can get your hands on one of the William Castle box sets, I would highly recommend it. But just a really wonderful overall presentation and just kind of bang for your buck from Indicator out of the UK.
We actually have 3 questions from The War Effect today. And their first question is, what genre and era do you gravitate toward?
Yeah, so another really great question. And thank you so much for submitting 3 questions. That's awesome. But in terms of, so they're asking about genre and era.
Yeah.
So for me, so I was born in the 80s. I'm a child of the 80s and 90s, and so naturally I kind of, I guess, gravitate towards 80s films. I love watching the 80s films, but I'm all over the place in terms of era. It seems like as of late I've really been getting more and more into films from the 1940s and 50s. I've watched a considerable amount of film noir. I know Brennan here, it's usually if I'm either watching films by myself or Brennan's one of my partners in crime. We've watched stuff from the 40s. What do you think of, like, I'm pointing over here to my collection, like the Universal monster movies? Do you have a favorite out of those, or what's kind of your thoughts on those films?
Probably my favorite out of the monster movies that we've seen would probably have to be The Invisible Man.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great one. I know we still have some. We recently picked up the expanded collections, and so for me, I think we'll start probably alphabetically, so go with Creature from the Black Lagoon. I've only ever seen the first Creature from the Black Lagoon, so that'll be interesting to kind of...
Same.
Yeah, same with you. So that'll be interesting to kind of dive in and see the other films. But anyways, going back to the main question here, in terms of genre, that's kind of another... I feel like I'm kind of cheating here because I'm not giving one specific era or genre, but as I said, I'm really big into film noir. I absolutely love horror, and westerns are really big in my collection. I love action movies. I'm not like a big action head in terms of just, I have to have every action movie out there, but when they're done right, I love a good action movie. Probably the top of my list in that genre would be something like, you can't go wrong with Die Hard. I know you haven't seen that one yet, but Die Hard, Terminator 2, my gosh, Terminator 2 is right there. I love Speed, so definitely just the 3 examples that I gave right there, you can say I love, kind of 80s, 90s action movies. There's some good ones there, but I love documentary filmmaking. I have a ton of docs in the collection, and I only see that collection growing in the future. So, and then last that I want to bring up is animation. I know that's not I guess that's kind of a genre.
Yeah, I guess.
There's more specific genres, like I could say Japanese anime, which we love. The Studio Ghibli collection is something that we watch in our family. Anyways, yeah, as you can see, I'm kind of all over the place. If I had to pick one genre and one era, I'd probably get dizzy and pass out, because that's just a very tough question for me. But that gives you some idea of what I like. So.
Cool. The War Effects. Next question is, are you interested in 80s cartoons? Are you waiting for an HD remaster of these shows?
Yeah, great question. So, yes, I'm a huge fan of 80s cartoons. TV shows within my collection, I think, is something that maybe I don't have as much of. I definitely have more kind of standalone movies than I do TV shows, but I definitely have TV shows. In terms of the 80s, my favorite a couple off the top of my head would be Thundercats for sure, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were the two really, really big ones for me. And then also, we had some of the Disney. Now, those that grew up in my era. So again, I was I was born in the 80s. I was born in 1984, and when I was growing up, so probably go to when I was in kindergarten. So we're looking at about 1989. I'm trying to remember when DuckTales came in, because I think DuckTales was the one that really kicked off. Yeah. That's definitely a show we know in our house as well. And the new one. I know you said you've watched a little bit.
Yeah, I've seen like an episode.
Yeah. So that's one we need to jump into. But I know DuckTales kind of kickstarted that, and then you had Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers and Tailspin and Darkwing Duck. Those more went into the 90s though. So I'll kind of focus my answer back on Thundercats and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Would I love an HD remaster on those? Absolutely. The only issue there is I don't know that the elements exist, the original film elements. I don't know if they exist so that we can make that happen. So that would be the only tricky part, is just some of the technicalities to overcome. And of course, there's always licensing and things like that. But yeah, Thundercats and TMNT would be my answer for that question.
And on the topic of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, do you have a favorite Ninja Turtle?
That's good. See, I like having you as a host. You pop questions at me. So growing up, I would say that my favorite. So I'm the oldest of 6 boys in my family, and I have an older sister. And being the oldest of 6 boys, I felt like I was kind of the leader, so to speak, and so I always kind of identified with Leonardo for that fact. But if I'm being totally honest, I think it's probably Michelangelo, because I'm a party dude.
Cowabunga!
Yeah. So I know I have a good guess as to who your favorite is, because I know that your favorite color is purple. Does that match up with who your favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle is?
Maybe.
What's your favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle?
It would probably be Donatello.
Yeah. Why do you like Donatello?
Well, like you said, his like color is purple.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I like how he's like really like he's kind of like the smart one of like the team.
Brainiac, right here of the family.
And I like how he fights with a staff.
Yeah, that is a cool weapon. I totally agree. Yeah, in terms of weapon, I think I'd probably stick with Leonardo. I like his sword. Yeah, so I think I'd probably stick with Leonardo there. But yeah, I like all the weapons they use. But anyways, cool question. Mm-hmm. All right, so we got another one the last one by the War Effect, I believe.
Yes. The third and final question from the War Effect is: why are collectors interested in limited edition releases that come with a book? Once you read it, does it just sit there? Is shelf space a concern?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So going back to, like I was talking about with Indicator, I love the overall package that we get on these limited edition sets, and I think that first and foremost is that's what comes to my mind, is just what do you get for your money. And with limited edition sets, you get a lot of variance on kind of packaging style, and my favorite inclusions in those sets are books and supplements. And so yeah, of course I'm not going through my entire collection and just constantly rereading the books and the sets and watching the extra features. I mean, I'm not even the collection's big enough that it's it's just not viable to go through and watch everything on a regular basis. Like, it's just not going to happen. But my collecting has gotten a lot more focused over the years, and so I'm only bringing items into the collection that I'm really crazy about, and ones that I'm going to be, revisiting on as regular a basis as possible, or, films that have really stuck with me. And in terms of shelf space, that's one reason I've gotten kind of more and more concentrated in my collecting, is because I don't want shelf space to be an issue. So behind us here, you see these shelves. So what did that used to be?
A closet.
Yeah, so this used to be a closet that I gutted here in my office. So my office is actually just a separate bedroom in our house. And I, obviously made it into my office. This is where I work and have the collection and where I watch films. And I have lots of shelf space up off camera here where I have my TV set up and all of that. And I had a closet, which was just right here behind us, and I decided to gut that closet and pull everything out of there, and then because this had obviously doors on it, like sliding doors, and
that was a process.
Yeah, that was a process, but it doubled my collecting space, literally doubled, because out here I have again off camera, I have 2 large Billy bookshelves from IKEA and then 2 small ones, and then back here I have 3 large ones. And in fact, if anybody's has a question, this wasn't a question that was asked, but I believe I've been asked it at some point just in the comments on random videos, but the bookshelves that I use are the Billy bookshelves from IKEA. And one thing that I really like, I like the white color, they come in black and brown and whatever, but I like the white because I like kind of the clean aesthetic of white shelves. And I like how easy it is to kind of move the shelves up and down. And I'm kind of, over the years, I've kind of been in a constant state of just reorganizing the collection and things like that. But I also got these mounted really well to the wall, so these are not budging at all. And in fact, the width on the closet was, down to the centimeter, was the same width as 3 of these Billy bookshelves wide. So the heavens opened and it worked out perfectly so that I wasn't dealing with any extra space. But the other thing I really like about these shelves is that they're a little bit deeper. So I know some of the shelves, like from Atlantic, is a great brand, and they're really, really cool shelves. The movies kind of stick out from the shelf just a little bit, and so they're meant to just have one movie, and they're very nice display pieces. I know a lot of collectors that use Atlantic. In fact, I almost went that direction. But one thing in the back of my mind that I worry about, which is shelf space, eventually it would be nice because these shelves are a little bit deeper, and so I can fit actually 2 movies deep on these shelves if I absolutely have to. So in that sense, it would again double my collecting space kind of all the way around.
Do you ever think in the future you'll need to get more bookshelves?
It's because that really does become an issue of space, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's gonna have to be a bridge that I cross when I come to it. Maybe once you move out of the house, I'll convert your room to a second.
Like it's just like bookshelves everywhere.
Yeah.
Just like movies everywhere, just like the closet, maybe some on the floor.
Yeah.
Maybe even on the ceiling.
Yeah. We'll have to figure out the ceiling shelves. But anyways, did I answer everything? Yeah. So I do love the limited editions, and that's really kind of what I focus on, is those limited edition sets, the really cool kind of overall packages, and then we of course talked about shelf space.
Mm-hmm. The next question comes from Vanessa. Do you have a favorite silent film?
All right. Thank you, Vanessa. That's Vanessa Bettino, another great friend of mine. So with silent film, I am a little bit less versed in silent films, but I've really enjoyed my journey thus far. Now, I have a good deal of silent films in the collection now, and a lot of those are through Criterion. I have them through Eureka, and then I'm trying to think if I don't think I have any through like Arrow Academy or any of those lines. Obviously, Charlie Chaplin is the one that's really most talked about in terms of the comedians of silent film, and then you got Buster Keaton. But I've got to tell you, I've been really, really impressed with the work of Harold Lloyd, and that's probably where my answer is currently. Would be, and I know you asked favorite silent film. My favorite silent artist, I would say, would be Harold Lloyd, and you really can't go wrong with Safety Last. I need to show you that film. You'd have a blast with that one. So I'd go Safety Last. And I've also recently watched The Kid Brother. I mean, you've got to love the monkey in that movie. And yes, you'll have to watch that one as well. But yeah, I'd say the comedies of the silent era are where a lot of my focus has been in terms of my silent film watching. But Vanessa, I'm up to recommendations. If there's any other big titles that you think I should watch, definitely let me know. I know one that I've had my eye on for quite some time is The Phantom Carriage. I know that was an inspiration for the likes of Ingmar Bergman, and I want to say a couple of others have kind of noted that as an inspiring film for them in terms of getting into their art and their craft. But for now, yeah, that'd be my answer. Would be Harold Lloyd, and I'd say Safety Last would be kind of my favorite thing that I've seen from him thus far.
Okay. Before I ask the next question, is that spelled right? Or...
Yeah. So Basement Blues.
Oh, Basement Blues.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Basement Blue asks, "What is your most prized possession in your collection?"
Yeah, so Basement Blues, that's Tony from Basement Blues, formerly toy collector. I've done some live streams with him. You remember the stuff that I've done. Yeah, so Tony, thanks for the question. And I have an idea that Tony probably knows the answer to this, but in terms of the most prized possession of my collection, that would have to go to my Walt Disney Treasures collection. It was such a kind of a labor of love to go through and collect all of those. So for those that are unfamiliar with the Walt Disney Treasures collection, this was a project that teamed up Disney with Leonard Maltin, who's my favorite film critic and historian of all time. Teamed up Disney and Leonard Maltin, and they did 30 collections which make up the entire Walt Disney Treasures collections, and they kind of focus on different areas of Disney history. So you have everything from the animated shorts to kind of, I guess you'd call them documentaries, but like live TV broadcasts. You have some Walt Disney Presents material in there. You have some war films, propaganda type stuff in there. And some other TV stuff like Zorro and El Fuego Baca, and you have the Scarecrow of Romney Marsh. It's a very kind of wide range of content from Disney, and just a wonderful collection. Now, I had a lot of the collection back, so these were released between, I want to say, about 2001 and 2008 or 2009, and again there were 30 kind of collections released, and I had quite a few of those collected over the years, and then like an absolute idiot, digital came in really heavy, and I had started to go a little bit more towards digital collecting, and so I digitized my Walt Disney Treasures titles that I had, and then I got rid of them, which, why would I do that? And then it was years later when I was, just full blast back into physical media collecting, which I will never veer away from again. I got the itch to start collecting the Walt Disney Treasures collection. I knew it was going to be definitely a financial commitment. It was going to be a time commitment. And so over about 3 years, I want to say, I found all 30 titles, and I will not disclose how much I spent on that collection, but, oh, look at that, I'm boring you already. No.
It's been a while.
I know, it's hard to keep the attention of a 12-year-old. Anyways, yeah, so 30 titles in that entire collection over 3 years, and it was just, I'm so happy to have all of them. And yeah, so that would be my most prized possession. It just took kind of the most time, the most money, and the content in those sets is very near and dear to my heart. So it would have to be the Walt Disney Treasures collection.
Okay. Next question. The next question comes from J.E. I think that's how you pronounce it. What is your favorite Christmas movie?
All right. Yeah, so J.E., thank you very much. So in terms of my favorite Christmas movie, I would have to give that to Raymond Briggs, the film adaptation of Raymond Briggs' story, The Snowman. Now, I first saw The Snowman it was either 1989 or 1990. I believe this debuted in 1982, and it was actually up for an Academy Award. 1982, and it was up for an Academy Award, and I watched it in school when I was either in kindergarten or first grade. I lived in Oregon at the time, and it was just the memory of watching that for the first time has stuck with me. It's so permanent in my memory, and I loved the emotion that was conveyed through that story, the art direction, the music, just the entire experience. And it's funny because it's actually not a full-length movie. It's more of a short film if we're being really technical, because it comes in at about 25 minutes or so. But it's one that by the end of the 25 minutes, I'm in tears every single time. It's a very emotional story. But if I'm talking kind of a proper Christmas movie, again, because this is a short film, I'd probably go with National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. I can't get enough of that movie, and that's the one I look forward to most every year to watching. I love, obviously, Chevy Chase, and then my favorite character's got to be Cousin Eddie. I can't get enough of Cousin Eddie, and my wife and I, in fact, watched it on Christmas night this year, and we're both just dying laughing. So yeah, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation would be kind of my favorite kind of proper Christmas movie.
Okay. The next question comes from Nathan Jones. Do you have any particular 30 for 30s?
Oh, so 30 for 30, yeah, so the ESPN series, which just right behind me here, you can actually see that's the 5th anniversary. Yeah, that's the 5th anniversary collection. So that actually features the first 100 films in this series. So full disclosure, I have not seen anywhere near the full 100 that are in that set. But some of my favorites, and I think I wrote down I want to make sure I'm getting the names right. So, and Nathan will like that I love this one because he's a Pacers fan. Winning Time, Reggie Miller versus the New York Knicks. I absolutely love that. I've seen that one, honestly, probably 3 times by now. And then also, the Fab Five, about the guys from Michigan, Chris Webber and those guys. And then Bad Boys, about the Detroit Pistons. So obviously you can tell I like the NBA documentaries. It's my favorite sport, and I love the docs on the NBA. And in fact, recently on the channel as well, I featured, because this isn't a part of the 30 for 30 series, but it is ESPN Films. I featured an unboxing of The Last Dance about the Chicago Bulls dynasty, and it's just such a cool time in NBA history. Great time to be an NBA fan, and heartbreaking for me because I am a big Utah Jazz fan. So that was kind of a high and low couple of years for us, and from '96 to '98. But yeah, I love 30 for 30, and those three would be kind of the standouts for me thus far. But I can't wait to continue down that road.
And we actually have another question from Nathan Jones.
Yep, and Nathan's a really good buddy of mine, great friend of the channel, and was really glad to hear from him.
If you could have worked as a concept artist or / been around the creation of any particular cartoon / animation, what would it be?
Yeah, so Nathan knows, so I love to kind of dink around in my sketchbook and draw and stuff like that. I've always been a fan of animation, and kind of I guess the more obvious answer would be I would love to have existed around the production of the older Disney classics with the 9 Old Men, which were Walt's main animators. They were known as the 9 Old Men. I would love to have been around productions in that time, but my answer is actually going to be I would love to have been involved with Genndy Tartakovsky. Now, Genndy Tartakovsky, he's done a lot of television animation, and in particular, the show that I'm thinking of is Samurai Jack. I would love to have been a character designer, concept artist, something, even a script consultant, something like that on Samurai Jack. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, animated TV show of all time. And I love just the art direction. It feels just very organic, and I love the really engaging storylines there. That's one that you've watched quite a bit with me as well. In fact, Brendan and I watched the last season as it. I can't remember if we watched that as it aired, but I've got the. I'm looking around. Actually, it's right here above my head. Wow. Yeah, so here's Samurai Jack, and then you can see Adventure Time, and then Batman, the animated series. But yeah, Samurai Jack is one that Brendan and I have really, really enjoyed together.
I actually have a sketch in one of my sketchbooks of the main bad guy. I can't remember.
Aku, the shape-shifting master of darkness.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a sketch of that face of him on that.
Yeah. Yeah, Aku is such a great antagonist, and Samurai Jack, and I love the kind of the spiritual journey that that Jack goes on, and it's just a very, very satisfying show to watch. And I love his other work too. Tartakovsky with Dexter's Lab was an absolute favorite growing up, and still is. And most recently, he's actually done a show on. That was picked up by Adult Swim, which the final season of Samurai Jack was picked up by Adult Swim, and now Adult Swim has taken on another project from Genndy called Primal, which is absolutely magnificent. I would show it to my buddy here, but it's definitely on the violent side. But it is really just, from the start, it just goes. And it's a very emotional story, really great art direction. Again, no surprise because it's Genndy and his team. Some of the team from Samurai Jack came over to do that project, but just I can't speak highly enough of Genndy Tartakovsky and his work.
Okay, we only have we only have a few questions left.
Okay.
Okay, and Quack asks, What is your favorite Walt Disney treasure?
Awesome. Great to hear from Quack. And in fact, I think, because I've talked to this individual about the Walt Disney Treasures collection before, so I think you go by 80s Quack on Instagram, but we've talked quite a bit, so thank you so much for asking that question. I'm glad that I have an opportunity to talk again about the Walt Disney Treasures collection, because I kind of pored over this question for a while, because there's so many titles in the treasure sets that I love so much. But if I was forced to say my favorite, I think that would have to go to Disneyland USA. In particular, because I love the original TV broadcast of the opening of Disneyland. And of course, we have Walt Disney's speech, opening the park, and the plaque that still stands there at the entrance. And for me, Disney holds a very special place in my heart. Growing up, just so many memories at Disneyland, and I am a huge Disney history buff. I wouldn't say I'm as big of a fan of the current Disney company, but I love Disney history, and especially the era up through until Walt passed away, and even past that. But I love vintage Disney, so Disneyland USA really tugs at the heartstrings with just having the opening of Disneyland, and there's a lot of other features on there as well. And in fact, we have a second Disneyland set in the collection with Disneyland Secrets, Stories, and Magic. And the cool thing about that set is it comes with one of the original, or obviously a reproduction, of the e-ticket booklet, which my mom has shown me. She still has an original e-ticket booklet that she had from when she went to the park. And so you'd have, when you went to Disneyland back then, you'd actually have a little ticket book. And so you'd have a finite amount of tickets. And so one ticket would say, different rides in Fantasyland or whatever. And so once you used that ticket, like, it was done. And so you couldn't go like you can now, just on any ride you want. You could go on Star Tours, 50 times if you wanted. It didn't work that way. You had a finite amount of tickets and rides that you could go on, but it was really cool that they included a reproduction of that in that set. But Disneyland USA, though, if I had to choose one set, that would be my personal favorite.
The next question comes from Luke. What's your favorite movie/physical media release of 2020?
Yeah, so this is going to be kind of a tough question for me. I really didn't go to the movie theater much at all for very obvious reasons in 2020. Now, I did catch a few movies early on in the year, but they were actually technically 2019 releases, and that's when I actually saw Parasite for the first time. Bong Joon-ho, his fantastic film Parasite. I also saw 1917, which was really wonderful, but that was released nationwide in January 2020, but it was actually technically released on Christmas Day. And then, I can't remember if I mentioned here any others that I had seen. No, so that would be a couple of the big standouts would be 1917 and Parasite. In terms of physical media, so we had a really landmark year in terms of physical media. And so there's a lot of titles. In fact, I have a video that I posted on December 31st, kind of going over my favorite releases of the year. We had some really landmark releases from each of the labels that I collect from regularly. And one of the big standouts for me was for George Romero's Dawn of the Dead from Second Sight. That box set, which is right up here, right there. So this is the Dawn of the Dead set from Second Sight, and it's just absolutely spectacular. you have a novelization of the book, you have another hardbound book with essays and photos, you have the soundtrack, you have the sound library, you have 3 cuts of the film. It's really just a stacked release. But maybe this won't be any surprise because of what I was talking about earlier. I think if I had to choose a favorite release for the year, it would go to Columbia Noir #1 from Indicator. I had an absolute blast with that set, and in fact, I've watched through all of the films, all of the supplements. Now I just need to read the book, and that one's one that included, it's like a 120-page book that had with it as well. So I would have to say Columbia Noir #1 from Indicator.
Okay.
We're gonna get through it.
Only 2 more questions. Okay. Dan.
Danny B-Tech.
Okay, I'll just go with that.
Danny B-Tech. Sorry if we're mispronouncing these.
Danny B-Tech asks, which extras do you appreciate the most?
So in general, which again I've kind of touched on already, but in general I really like the books with the essays and photos and things like that. And then one of the main features I love to see on disc are feature-length documentaries. Like I said earlier too, I'm such a documentary nut. I love really anything I can get my hands on that's documentary filmmaking. I'm just intrigued by so much of what's being done with that art form. But yeah, I love the feature-length documentaries about the films that I watch, and I really feel like, for me, obviously I love watching the films, but I feel like I get my real education after watching the main feature by going through and reading the books and the essays and watching the supplements. So for me, I get so much out of the supplements, and it's and I'll hear people say, and I understand everybody has their own way of watching movies or whatever, but when I hear people say that they don't, they just watch the movie and not the extra features, my heart hurts a little bit, because there's so much work that goes into extra features on discs. And in fact, I was watching over on Serial at Midnight, which is one of my favorite YouTube channels. Heath and Bree, they do such great work over there. They interviewed, and I'm so sorry that his name is escaping me right now, but the kind of the front man for Ballyhoo Productions, and they've produced some amazing documentaries on these discs, like Waterworld, for instance, is the big one that I can think of. From Arrow Video had their documentary Maelstrom is just fascinating, and so extra features like that. So just so that you know, not that Ballyhoo or those guys are watching this video, but those features, those documentaries are very much appreciated, and something that I, as a collector and as a film lover, always look forward to watching. So that would be, that's what I look forward to in terms of extra contents. So
okay, the final question.
The final question. Brennan's breathing a sigh of relief. Thank you so much for asking all these questions, bud.
You're welcome. The final question comes from Steve
Langton.
Langton.
Yep, one of my good buddies.
What are your favorite memories from your earliest trips to the cinema?
Yeah, so this is a great question. Thanks, Steve. And yeah, Steve's a good buddy of mine. He's always in the comments section, and I always love hearing what he has to say. In terms of my earliest memories from the cinema, I actually touched on this in my film journey episode that I filmed with Nathan Jones over on his channel. But my first memory of going to the movie theater, I don't know if I've talked to you about this. My favorite memory of going to the movie theater for the first time, or the first memory that I can kind of conjure up, was going to see Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And so this was in 1989 when it was released. And one of the things that I remember especially is that that before the movie, so kind of like the golden age of Hollywood, you'd have like cartoons or shorts or something that would play before the movie. And in this, with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, they played Tummy Trouble from Roger Rabbit, which I'm a big fan of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And so that was really cool. Just the overall experience, I remember that the most. And then kind of going into the early 90s, we had a summer movie program where I grew up. I grew up in Utah, and I know that it wasn't exclusive to Utah that they had this type of thing, but we had a summer movie program, and so we would get, you'd go once a week and you'd have movies all summer. So each week we'd have a new movie to go to, and this is going to make me sound really old. It seems like for about $1.50 or $2, you could get a drink, popcorn, and a candy for about $1.50 or $2.
And now they're like
popcorn's like $10.
Now they're like 3 times expensive that you can get. Like the candy, they're like 3 times more expensive than you can just like, instead of like just buying them at the store.
Yeah. Well, I remember going down to the grocery store, we could regularly find candy bars for 25 cents. And that's just not even, remotely the case these days. But anyway, so we did this summer movie program, and a couple of the titles that really stand out in my memory. In fact, I'll say the one that stands out the most in my memory was when I went to see The Rocketeer. And that, to this day, is still one of my favorite Disney movies. And just such a great memory, from that time, going with my, with my brother, especially my brother just younger than me. He's just 18 months younger than I am. It was always such a great time to go to the movie and of course get our treats and everything. But that was such a cool era in Disney live action and animation. Of course, we had the renaissance of Disney animation with what I grew up, the main ones I grew up with, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin, and of course Lion King, and then on the live action front you had The Rocketeer, Newsies, Dick Tracy, Homeward Bound was a big one for me as well. And so just a super cool time to be a kid. But yeah, those would be my earliest memories of the cinema. One more actually. We, in the town that I grew up in, we had a dollar theater or a discount theater, whatever you want to call it. And that's where I saw Jurassic Park for the first time in 1993. And that's my favorite, kind of the most impactful movie theater experience of my life, would be seeing Jurassic Park for the first time. And then the second time I saw Jurassic Park, it was pretty cool because we had a drive-in theater just one city away. And so my friend, I went with him and his parents and siblings. Kind of they had a family thing going, and they invited me to come along. And we went to the drive-in theater and saw Jurassic Park and Flintstones with, of course, John Goodman and Rick Moranis as a really fun double bill. So that's a lot of my early memories of going to the cinema, going to the movie theater. And of course, I've had many, many more since then. But do you have a favorite? Like, is there a time where you went to the movie theater that really stands out? Was there any movie that we saw that was just like a big experience or big memory? I don't know. Do you remember which one we saw in theaters twice when it came out?
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That was a good movie.
Just crazy good animation in that movie. I was blown away by the art direction in that movie, and Brennan and I liked that enough. We actually went to the theater twice and saw that. In fact, the first time we saw it in 3D.
You did?
If I remember right. Didn't we see that one in 3D?
No, we saw Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh,
in 3D.
okay. So we saw Spider-Man Homecoming in 3D. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse we saw twice, but just standard.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how that went. But we saw that a couple of times in theaters, which was a ton of fun. And then, yeah, so you're a little bit too young to have remembered Harry Potter in theaters, which that would have been cool because you're a big Harry Potter fan. But yeah, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that was one that really needed to be seen in the theater, so that was really cool. But I believe we've reached the end of the list of questions.
It would appear so.
All right. Thank you again so much for posting those questions. We've had an absolute blast, although we are a little bit tired. No, no. Thanks to my buddy here, Brennan, for sticking in there with me and asking these questions. And we'll have to find more reasons for you to be on the channel. I think there's some fun stuff that we could do. In fact, there's some content that we were talking about. So stay tuned because you might see more of Brennan on this channel. But if you found this long-winded video helpful or entertaining in any way,
I've been recording for a while.
Yep, we're at almost coming on an hour here. If you found this video helpful or entertaining in any way, please at least think about hitting that subscribe button, also the like button and the bell icon, because that will notify you when I upload new videos in the future. And until next time, my name is David.
My name is Brennan.
We're your hosts here on the Cartoon Fortress YouTube channel, and hope you have an awesome day.